course, we start with the biggest story for you this hour on All Angles. Dr. Magudumana and two others will be back in court on the 3rd and 4th of next month to continue with their bail application. Their case have been remanded and will remain in custody. Her father, Zolani Sikeleni, was granted 10,000 Rand bail and will have to report to the Port Edward police station once every week. As you know, Magudumana faces charges of aiding a prison escape, violation of corpses, fraud, as well as multiple murder charges. Now let's go to our senior reporter, Silindelo Masikane, who of course is on that story. She joins us now live, and what you're seeing on your screen at the moment is of course that convoy that is expected to take Magudumana back to her cell. This is in a prison in Kroonstad, which is about 200 meters or so away from the actual court where she appeared today. So let's just speak to Silindelo Masikane about what happened in court earlier. Slee, just remind us exactly what the bail conditions are for Magudumana's father. He's the only one who's been let go today.
Yeah, it seems an agreement has been reached between the state as well as the lawyer representing Dr. Nandipha and her father. It does seem as though the state has been able to verify much of his information, allowing the state as well as his lawyer to come to an agreement of a bail amount of 10,000 Rand. What you're seeing in front of you, though, right now is we're behind the courthouse, and we are expecting Dr. Nandipha to be transported back to the prison where she's being held at the moment. So that is what you're seeing in front of you now. She was transported in the white Fortuner that you see in front of you. So the expectation is that she's going to be transported back in that particular vehicle. But back to Zolile Sekeleni, who at some point was seated next to his daughter until the authorities then asked them to sit in the order as to which they're accused. And in this particular instant, Dr. Nandipha is accused number 4, so then she had to move a little bit further away from her father. So Zolile Sekeleni has been granted bail of 10,000 Rand on condition that he reports to a police station in Port Edward once a week on any day of the week between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. He may not leave the district of Port Edward without reporting to a colonel that has been assigned to him. And he's also ordered not to contact any witnesses directly or indirectly for the duration of his period as he is admitted to bail. His co-accused being Dr. Nandipha, the former G4S supervisor, as well as a CCTV technician. They will be applying for bail, or will be given an opportunity to apply for bail on the 3rd and 4th of May. Zolile Sekeleni was also warned to be back at court here in Bloemfontein on the 16th of May, which is when we're expecting Thabo Bester to also make his way back to court. So it does seem as though after the bail hearings for the rest of the accused who appear today, they too will be joining Thabo Bester during court proceedings on the 16th of May. So that is when we expect to see Zolile Sekeleni back in the dock, but he is the only one so far who's been granted bail of the accused.
And Slee, I mean, I remember last week, Friday, I think it was, when Thabo Bester made his court appearance, they did say that on the 16th of May, he would be considered accused number 5. So I guess this is why we're seeing the 3rd and 4th of May being another leg of this particular case, just to give them time to eventually have all of them appear together on the 16th of May. But Slee, while you're waiting, of course, and you'll let us know, just scream at me when you see Magudumana come out of that courtroom. But in the meantime, I just need the team to just play that clip of the magistrate when he asked to see Magudumana's face, because, as you know, she's been hiding her face this entire time.
All that I'm saying is the court itself must be satisfied that the person mentioned in the charge sheet is in fact the accused before court. Yes, it can happen that we might find ourselves in a situation where we have a wrong person before court. I'm the prosecution, I haven't seen her face. I don't know if that relates to the name before court yet.
Yeah, I just approached The client has the copy. Where's the copy, sis?
I'm not satisfied. I saw that she hasn't fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
May you also confirm that on last appearance, when this matter was adjourned, I adjourned this matter whilst you were present in court. Madam? Thank you.
And of course, Lee, that in media terms we would call the money shot when we finally got to see her face for the first time since she was arrested in Tanzania with her boyfriend Thabo Bester. She has been able to hide her face in court this entire time. But talk to me about the fact that, Lee, my understanding is that today was the first time that Nandipha was seeing her father physically after running away from the country. And, you know, their demeanor, at some point it looked like he was comforting her before they were separated.
Yeah, certainly so. It was quite interesting to see the interaction between Dr. Nandipha and her father. You would be correct to say that, as far as we understand, this is the first time they're seeing each other since the saga broke out, since she went on the run with Thabo Bester, where they were ultimately found in Arusha, Tanzania. And you could see the emotions visibly on her father's face. I caught a glimpse of her while she was sitting in the dock, and a lot of the time she kept her eyes closed. As well, there was a moment as well when she sat in the dock where she turned around to see if there were any family members. There were a couple of family members who were there. I noticed her sister was there. I'm still trying to confirm if her mother was here as well, but several relatives did come out to witness the court proceedings. And she turned around, blew kisses at them. They told her that they love her. So it does seem as though Dr. Nandipha and her father are receiving some support from their family. And of course, it's now up to the family to try and organize that 10,000 Rand in order for Zolile Sekeleni to be able to go back home. I know in a conversation I had with Dr. Nandipha's brother, he did indicate that both his mother and father are quite sickly, they're elderly, and so they were quite worried about his condition inside prison. So I think for the family, that's a relief. It does seem as though the Fortuna that I understand should be carrying Dr. Nandipha is leaving the courthouse. I just want to have a look inside. I don't see anyone in there, so it might not be that particular Fortune. I just want to take a look inside and see. We do still have a number of security officials, so that particular vehicle may still be inside that was transporting Dr. Nandipha earlier this morning. But at this point, we understand, of course, that they're going to, she's going to remain in custody, meaning she's going to remain in the prison in Kroonstad, just 200 kilometers away from Bloemfontein. That is where she's being housed during these court proceedings.
And Slee, just, you know, in terms of the father being able to convince the court that he is a suitable candidate for bail, for today, just help me understand, with the other three accused being given the date the 3rd and 4th of May, does this mean that today they were not applying for bail and it was in fact just Dr. Magudumana's father applying for bail today?
Sorry, I just lost my connection to you there, Maseko. Could you repeat that?
I was saying, Slee, today, was it the case of all four of them applying for bail, or was it just Dr. Nandipha's father applying for bail today and the other three just asked for a date to which they will also apply? Is that what happened today? It wasn't all four of them trying to apply today?
The expectation, Maseko, was that there was going to be a possible bail application for the four. But it does seem as though that the state and the defense then came to an agreement that the other three accused would have their bail applications on the 3rd and the 4th of May, while the state was able to verify a lot of the information that they require in order to be able to agree to bail for Zolile Sekeleni. So it seems they had been able to verify his address. They were able to identify a police station where he could report to once a week, as well as set out conditions that his defense and his lawyer then agreed on for him to be admitted to bail. Now it's up to his family to be able to secure 10,000 Rand for him to be admitted to bail. So we don't know when that will happen, but he has been granted bail. It's now going to be interesting to see whether the other three accused in this matter will be granted bail. We know Thabo Bester is a convicted felon, so he remains behind bars. And I think Tebogo will also be able to show you that just behind us, as we're trying to see if we can spot that convoy that's going to leave the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court, we do have a lot of civilians trying to catch their own glimpse of Dr. Nandipa's convoy as it leaves the Magistrates Court. But another interesting thing that I noticed today of Dr. Nandipa is that she has been able to, like you said, remain covered, but the state prosecutor ensuring today that he would satisfy himself and satisfy the court that the person in the dock is Dr. Nandipa, saying that so far she has managed to conceal her identity, but the court needs to be satisfied that it is actually her who's in the dock and not somebody posing to be Dr. Nandipa in the dock. So those bail applications, like I said, will be heard on the 3rd and 4th of May. That's next month. So there's going to be, I think, a lot more investigations taking place, because certainly the analysis we've been receiving is that it can't be that 5 people played a role in this escape. There has to be more people, more high-ranking officials who need to be accountable for what happened on the 3rd of May 2022. And ironically enough, when the accused do come back to court to apply for bail, it would mark exactly a year since that escape saga took place.
Slee, that is exactly what I was also thinking, that, now we realize how long, this escape went unabated, undetected, etc. And my understanding is that on that particular day that Thabo Bester went, or escaped rather, there were about 23 officials on duty that day. So you cannot tell us that out of 23 officials that not even one knew exactly what happened. But I guess this is why we're seeing those 2 officials alongside Dr. Nandipa Magudumana and her father. So Slee, just tell me a little bit more about these other 2 accused, the G4S employee and the IT specialist. What charges are they facing? Just to remind us again about their role in this, or alleged role.
Yeah. So we have a former G4S employee who's in the dock. He is accused 1 in this matter. From what we understand, Sinuhe Litswara was a supervisor at the G4S Mangaung Correctional Facility, and he is accused of essentially orchestrating or ensuring that everything was in place for this escape to take place. He was, according to reports, he was not supposed to be on duty on the particular day in which the escape took place. He, in fact, from what we understand, is a day supervisor, so he should not be anywhere near the facility or the correctional center in the evenings, and he happened to report for duty unexpectedly on the 3rd of May, and essentially facilitated a lot of what we saw in terms of the body being planted into the prison. From what we understand, is that the Justice and Correctional Services Portfolio Committee heard that Motswara was on duty, like I said, on the night that Bester escaped. He wasn't supposed to be at work, and that he's a permanent day shift employee. Now, the committee also heard how Motswara arrived at the prison at around 4:52, so 10 to 5 on April 29th, 2022. And it's alleged that he facilitated the Baki to enter the prison. And this is where Zolile Sekeleni comes in, Nandipa's father. It's alleged that he was the one who arranged for the Baki transporting the body that was going to be planted into the cell that was hidden in a plasma TV stand, a wooden plasma TV stand. Zolile Sekeleni was the one who facilitated that Baki to transport the body to the prison, and then Sinohe Litswara is the one then who's accused of facilitating everything that unfolded within the prison, with the help, of course, of accused number 3, that is Tebogo Lepole. He's the CCTV technician who used to work for Intercetron, a company that's contracted by G4S to operate the cameras within the facility. And from what we understand, Tebogo Lepole is the one then who actually ensured that the cameras were switched off or weren't working between 7:30 on the 2nd of May 2022 up until 4:10 a.m. on the 3rd of May 2022. So that is what we understand to have transpired. That is how all of these, all of those who you see in the dock are, of course, linked to the escape. And then when we come to Dr. Nandipa, we know, of course, that she is the one who then went to the prison, or the mortuary rather, to claim the planted body as the customary wife of Thabo Bester.
It sounds like a movie, Slee, as you say it, but listen, this is all true, just so the viewer knows. All of the things that Slee has been telling us throughout these past 3 or 4 weeks of this bizarre story are all true. And I wonder, Slee, because my understanding is that Dr. Nandipa Magudumana at some point was married, and maybe the husband is estranged. This is the man that she has the 2 children with. So to be able to rope in her father to help her escape, help her make sure that Thabo Bester escapes. But I guess this is all something that we'll find out as the case still continues. While I still have you, Slee, while we wait for those visuals of Dr. Nandipa leaving for Kroonstad, let's just remind the viewer very quickly what the magistrate said would be the conditions for the release on bail of Zolile Sekeleni, that is Nandipa Magudumana's father.
So far as accused number 2 is concerned, the state has no objection to him being released on bail. The prosecution has gathered information regarding all his personal circumstances, and from what the prosecution has before it, there are no grounds to oppose his release on bail. I have canvassed the issue with my learned friend, Advocate Diba, and we have somehow agreed even with the amount of bail, with certain conditions. The state suggests a bail of 10,000 rand in respect of accused number 2, and that condition with regard to reporting in terms of section 62A of the Criminal Procedure Act be attached, that he reports once a week at the Port Edward police station, anytime from 8 until 4 in the afternoon, any time of the week, but it should be once every week.
Very interesting developments, Slee. I don't know if you'd be able to just tell the viewers some of the allegations that have come out throughout the weekend in terms of what it looks like Dr. Nandipha Magudumana will plead as soon as she'll be able to explain her part in this case. It looks like, abuse allegations going around, Stockholm Syndrome maybe?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more analysis in terms of the role of Dr. Nandipha and exactly whether she was a victim or whether she knew exactly what she was doing. We're seeing even more information coming out in terms of the relationship between Dr. Nandipha and Thabo Bester. You would remember that Facebook post by her brother, Nkosinathi Sekeleni, who says he tried to be the whistleblower in all of this. He tried to warn authorities. He tried to warn the public. He says about his relationship, about the relationship between Dr. Nandipha and Thabo Bester, saying that he alluded to the fact that they were running fraudulent businesses, that they were in a relationship. And a conversation I had with Dr. Nandipha's father, he, on the other hand, told me that he wasn't aware of a relationship between his daughter and the convicted felon. But we're seeing more and more posts coming out on social media in terms of what looks like weekend getaways for Bester and Nandipha. It seems Thabo Bester was able to check in and out of the Mangaung Correctional Center whenever he wanted to, whenever he and Dr. Nandipha wanted to go away on holidays in KwaZulu-Natal, and some boutique hotels here in Bloemfontein. Those are just some of the reports that we've been seeing coming out over the weekend, which then makes us believe or want or be more inclined to believe that they were in a relationship, that Dr. Nandipha seemingly knew what she was doing. We know that when they were found in Arusha, Tanzania, that she had a number of passports on her. We know that Bester had an American passport on him, and we know that police, from what our sources have told us, are looking into associates of Dr. Nandipha and just how much they knew of the fraudulent businesses and of the fact that Dr. Nandipha was in a relationship with Bester and seemingly hiding him for the past 10 months in their house in Hyde Park, which we know, of course, costs around 12 million rand. We know that Dr. Nandipha's children, at some point, who were living with her, were exposed to Bester in that house because they too lived in that house. So at this point, Masego, the verdict, I think, is still out. It really depends on what kind of a case the state is going to present. What I did notice on Dr. Nandipha while she was in the dock was the fact that she was wearing a ring on her marriage finger, and a very beautiful ring at that, which is quite peculiar because I understand that if you are in custody, then, you know, those kinds of items will be removed from you. So exactly how it is that Dr. Nandipha is able to have a ring on her ring finger during court proceedings is quite peculiar. A lot of people also asking why she's not being transported in police vans and being transported in private vehicles. Those are all questions I think that we'll certainly be trying to get answers to from correctional services and as well as the SAPS.
Silindelo Masikane, our senior reporter on this story, still doing a great job getting us more and more information. And of course, it's going to be very interesting to find out exactly why Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, for instance, went to claim 3 bodies at the mortuary for just this one escape, this one prison escape. Who exactly those 3 bodies belonged to, because we found out that, in some instances, one family ended up burying meat inside the casket that they were given and not an actual person. One family apparently burying millie meal as well in terms of what was put inside the casket that they were using to bury their loved one. And then there was also, of course, the discovery of the body that was floating in a river. So this story is still yet to blow our minds. But Silindelo Masikane, let's leave it there for now. As soon as she tells us that she has more updates on this story and whether or not Magudumana is leaving the Bloemfontein court, we'll take you back there live.